Greetings to everyone. You can subscribe to my boosty. There will be exclusive content and lemon Naruto every day. This is a continuation of the story where Naruto gets a second chance, but in the guise of a girl. Chapter 43 to 50. Before starting the video, subscribe to the channel and like it. This is very important to me, thank you. Enjoy watching. Chapter 43. We woke up. The awakening was abrupt, but because of the habit that I acquired when I became an ANBU in that world, I was in no hurry to open my eyes. However, not only did I not open my eyes, but I also tried not to change my breathing and chakra flow. However, all this happened to me automatically. The instructors were too responsible. Who would know how many times I mentally thanked them for their science, because this habit saved my life many times. I woke up. Kurama could be heard grumbling. I react a little sluggishly after sleep. Well, you screwed up, idiots, a doomed sigh from Red was my answer. I'm even wondering when yours will break through. Or are you all hoping for Kushina? Don't touch my Kachan, she's a holy woman who gave birth to such a charmer like me. I was indignant, but rather sluggishly. I didn't have the strength to argue, which is strange. Nevertheless, they couldn't help but patch me up. Who can argue? It's worth a lot to endure such an infection as you. Kurama chuckled and suddenly barked. Well, are you satisfied? How are you going to get out now? Or do you think Minato and Ko are idiots? No? I asked uncertainly. Oh, Rikudo, who did you leave me with? Kurama's exhausted groan was heard. Come on, Red! Shikaka's laughter was heard. It was fun! Funny? My personal schizophrenia roared in response. Yes, Kurama, I intervened, deciding to prevent the looming scandal. Can you tell me what happened after Aji-san knocked me out? He's not only you, but Gaara too. Shikaka's cheerful snort was heard. Akino, by the way, changed the seal and made it more stable. Although, if I didn't have a connection with you, I would have found myself in a bad position, but it just became easier for me to resist grabbing the baby's body, and it was easier to communicate. In general, I'm pleased. I'm sorry I didn't do this earlier. I repented. You wouldn't be able to, the level of knowledge of seals is different there. Tanuki answered me surprisingly judiciously. Agree, Kurama supported him and sighed heavily. By the way, they changed the seal on Udacat, and I also heard snippets of conversations that they found as many as 2 foreign seals on him. 2? I was sincerely surprised, forgetting that just a couple of minutes ago I felt like I was chewed. 1 protective one, with fragments of your chakra, Jubi beat you, and a subduing multi-component one with the chakra of Haruai and someone else incomprehensible. Or rather, this is the first time I've encountered such chakra. Came the dissatisfied answer. Do you want to explain anything to me, Naruto, huh? I don't know. I immediately understand what exactly Kurama is interested in, I respond. I didn't put a seal on Utakata. Well, they obviously didn't believe me, but they decided not to focus on it. You can calmly open your eyes and check my words. All the same, you were put in a solitary ward and your disappearance will only be noticed half an hour later, when it's time for the rounds. You're right, it's worth doing everything before they miss me. I agree and resolutely open my eyes. I see a white ceiling. I listen to the state of my body and, making sure that it is satisfactory, I decide to get up. Carefully, with all precautions, I rise up on the bed and lower my legs to the floor. I wince from the unpleasant sensations, nevertheless, I have not yet fully recovered, and my body responded with pain, and not only the muscles, but also the central nervous system ached. By the way, where is Sasuke? Only now I remember about my fiancé and immediately tried to clarify this point with the Biju. Whoever it is, they should be in the know. Kurama, at least, is accurate. It's not for nothing that he constantly wanders to Kachan's inner world. He hasn't come to his senses yet, and Naruto, Kurama said at first, dissatisfied, and then hesitantly. What? I hurried him and made the first attempts to get to my feet. Quite successful, in my opinion, because I only swayed and did not crash right away, which I equate to a small feat. What are you thinking about, Red? Shikaku was indignant, and now with barely noticeable sympathy. He sees almost nothing, just like his brother and his friend. With a friend? In my attempts to take the first steps and not fall, at first I did not understand what they were telling me. I was too focused on the way to the locker, hoping to find normal clothes there, otherwise I didn't want to show off in hospital gowns. Itachi and Shursui Kurama explained that during his life with me, he got used to remembering a bunch of information he needed and didn't need, and most importantly, he began to pay more attention to people's names. What's wrong with them? I got worried, and I got to the locker. Now you can concentrate on the conversation. Their Sharingans went blind, thank Rikudo. Red told me with sadistic pleasure in his voice. What? Why were you silent? I yelled at him. Actually, I said this right away. The mockery in Kurama's voice sobered me up a little, but the resentment did not go away. Whose fault is it that you don't listen to anyone? Your mother! Escaped me, and I resolutely opened the closet, but when I came across a white robe hanging forlornly, I became depressed. There were no normal clothes, it was bad. First of all, I only had a dad, Kurama said in a moralizing tone. And secondly, you have nothing to do with them. There are already enough adults and knowledgeable shinobi there. I don't think that in this form and condition anyone will let you into the red-eyed quarter. Henge is not an option, they will figure it out in an instant. I didn't even intend to go to the Uchihas. I hissed irritably at the fox, who clearly had a bit too much. I have a great feeling that my chakra channels are not ready for chakra use. Well done for feeling it, Kurama responded mockingly. I'll tell you more, for at least a week, you are completely prohibited from any jutsu, even the most basic ones, like ordinary walking on trees or water. How will I deal with Saiken then? I was sincerely indignant, because my plans included making a private visit to Utakata's chamber, and preferably so that no one would see or hear me. So be it, I'll help with him, but forget about training. Kurama growled displeasedly, admitting that the slime should be dealt with as quickly as possible. Nevertheless, he also did not like the fact that we could not contact him. However, this is a fixable matter. The main thing is get to his Jinchuriki, and there, taking into account the help Kurama offered, it will no longer matter whether he is conscious or not. As a last resort, we will forcefully suck out the chakra, and you don't need much of it. As soon as a small part gets in, the Bijou will be able to add their forces there at any time. Although here everything depends on the recipient, if I weren't an Uzumaki, something like this would be 100% death, and so I even changed the seal for this purpose. Well, at least this way. I reluctantly agree with my red-haired friend and resolutely take off the robe from its hanger. It's better than a hospital gown with strings, even though I'll slightly cover the back and show some nudity. It's a pity you can't use henge, and there's no mirror. If you turn 100 degrees to the right, you will see the door to the bathroom. Everything should be there. Red, who had already completely calmed down, instructed me. Silently I follow Kurama's direction and turn my head, look carefully at the walls and finally notice the door. I shrug and walk along the wall to her. I pull myself towards myself and find myself on the threshold of a small toilet room. Of course, there is no bathtub here, but there is a faience one and a sink with a mirror attached above it. This is exactly what I need. As quickly as my condition allows me, I rush towards him and peer with horror at my reflection. Well, what can I say? Indescribable beauty. The hair is disheveled and sticking out in different directions, the eyes are red, the face is swollen, and the picture is completed by a robe worn directly over a hospital gown, which is also several sizes too big. In general, horror. Kurama, can you do something about my fatigue? I purse my lips displeasedly and begin to put myself in order with the means at hand, and to my regret there are few of them. She combed her hair as best she could with her fingers and splashed water on her face, and she seemed to look less pale. Oh, okay, that'll do. Not a fountain, of course, but from a distance I'll pass for a nurse, and I don't need anything more. I can, but I'm warning you right now, it won't last more than half an hour. Came the immediate answer, and I had the feeling that this was exactly the question they were waiting for me to ask. It seems that my mother hen wants to feel Rokubi nearby as much as I do. At least this way. I agreed, and feeling the soft and warm waves of someone else's energy washing over me, I closed my eyes blissfully. Thank you? Come on, go! A loud snort in response, behind which you can easily feel a good-natured smile. Where to go? I ask, and with a much more confident gait I set off to exit first from the bathroom, and then from the ward. Instead of answering my question, I suddenly begin to sense Saiken's presence on the floor. It is located about 20 meters from my room. Strange, too close, isn't Tucson afraid of excesses? Although Gaara is also on this floor, only on the other side and a little further. Damn, don't tell me they placed us this way on purpose. Chapter 44. Updated Saiken. Various pictures pop up in my head of what this arrangement of the Jinchuriki is connected with, but I don't like any of them. No, I don't believe we were left alone and unguarded, but I'm curious as to why I can't sense any of them. Well, they couldn't completely hide from two awake Bijou at once. From this it follows that there is no one on our floor. Strange. True, if this is a hospital under the patronage of the Uzumaki clan, nothing surprising. The barriers here have always been good, but then the question is, why was I able to leave the room so easily? Stop thinking. Kurama's roar makes me shudder in fear and wake up from gloomy thoughts. If you stand still, you will be spotted much earlier than planned. Don't bother her, Kuchan, don't you see she's lost in thought? Shikaka sings mockingly, and I wince, expecting a storm. It's contraindicated for her to think Shuchan. To my surprise, Kurama did not explode, but answered quite calmly, albeit sarcastically. Cataclysms can happen, proven in practice. It was Sasuke's own fault then. I muttered dissatisfiedly, taking hold of the handle of the chamber in which the presence of the Jinchuriki Rokubi was felt. He shouldn't have encroached on the sacred. Since when is the post of Hokage sacred? Kurama asked caustically, watching as I, having gathered my courage, smoothly open the door to someone else's room and look at the barrier that has appeared in the opening. I was talking about peace, not about the post of Hokage. I was indignant at the slow-wittedness of my red-haired friend. By the way, how do we get through the barrier? And you poke your finger at him, maybe he'll let him through. Was Shikaka's advice, and I, not thinking of anything better, followed his advice. Well, they won't put death traps here, right? Do not dare! Kurama barks, but his roar produces the exact opposite effect of his words. I get scared, and instead of carefully touching with my finger, I suddenly jump forward, roll out of the possible flight path of the kunai, and only after that I understand that there is no danger nearby, and most importantly, the barrier let me through easily. Why be so scary? I asked the fox reproachfully. My heart almost stopped because of you. Are you completely crazy? Red yelled at me. What if it was a trap? And if you, come on, nothing happened. Shikaka interrupted him in a cheerful tone. And who sets death traps in a hospital? maximum alarms or barriers that prevent violent patients from escaping. Eh? I fall into a stupor for a moment, and then his words reach me, and I jump to my feet, literally flying up to the door, and begin to try to get through the barrier. To my joy, no problems arise, and I breathe a sigh of relief. It's gone. So it's a signal. The fox thoughtfully notifies me and suddenly barks. I quickly went to Saiken and get out. Hi! I had no desire to bark and clarify relations with Kurama. Besides, I admitted that he was right. We need to hurry. I quickly moved to the bed, where Yudakata lies all bandaged, and take his hand, and then as usual I fall into someone else's inner world. That means I told the truth. I heard Saiken's voice, but at the same time not his. Quite elusively, but the intonations were different. I look in the direction where the voice is heard and see a slug imprisoned in an ice prison. It's strange, I don't remember such a seal, and bijou are usually chained with pins or a chain. Although no, Tanuki has always been behind bars or even in a solid barrier, but his body consists of sand, so nothing surprising. Saiken has always been special in this regard. Shikaku's sarcastic voice sounded. Its mucus is very slippery, and its skin is quite dense, although elastic. It is very similar in this to the call of your grandmother. I turned to my bijou and raised my eyebrow questioningly, otherwise they've gotten into the habit of following me around everywhere. Who asked them to come after me to Saiken? However, if you look from the other side, I'm even grateful, because it's calmer with them. He means Tsunade and Katsuyu. Kurama snorts. Here's Saiken, just like slug, can change its size and shape. It's good at least not to break up into little Saikens, otherwise it would be sad. But it's easy to get out of any cage or chains, just like steaks, it will simply drain from them. Fox compliments Shikaku's answer and, laughing cheerfully, continues. That's why the seal projects ice, because it neutralizes his mucus, and acid too. That's right. Saiken's unfamiliar voice sounds again. Although it's unusual for me to watch you speak so calmly to a person. So it is with a person, and this is the air of Rikudo. Kurama says, offended. I wouldn't even talk to a simple person. And Kachan? I ask, unable to restrain myself, remembering that Red often contacts her, and this is only taking into account what he blurted out. How many times did he even communicate with her? It's a pity that there's no way to find out, but I'd like to. She carried the air to Rikudo, which means she is also not just a person, the fox responded in a categorical tone. I'm not Shikaku, to run around with all sorts of rabble, and then get attached to the air. Shikaku instantly fell into a rage, and all I could do was make a hand-face gesture and regret that Matatabi was not on them, because, despite all my recklessness, I understood that the weight category with the bijou was different for me, which means and they must be separated with caution. As always, arrogant Saiken's voice sounded. However, you are softer than my brother, as is Shikaku. I devoured him. Kurama broke into a fanged, smug grin. Likewise, Shikaku stated thoughtfully and turned to me. Naruto, do what you wanted and let's go. No. I sigh heavily, but I understand that arguing with an enraged Tanuki is more expensive for myself, so I turn to Slime and clarify. Where's Yudakata? Why do you need my carrier? Rokubi is alarmed, and in an instant the indifference that is familiar to me and from the past Saiken disappears from him. I want to see how I can help him. I shrug, trying to pretend that I'm not at all affected by his distrust. However, this is true, although it's a shame. After all, Rokubi was one of the most unproblematic bijou, only Matatabi was better than him. I immediately began to live with her in perfect harmony, which made the other 8 males very nervous. Here in the subconscious I not only look the way I'm used to, but I can also use all my abilities, including healing ones. Okay, I'll trust you, but remember, I'm watching you. Saiken agreed after a couple of moments. Yes, for Kami-sama's sake. I clasped my hands. Just come quickly. I need to hurry so that I don't get caught red-handed. You'd think your relatives wouldn't know that you came into this room. Shikaku snorted, but at the same time he did not take his eyes off Rokubi, who did something, and a bottle with Utakata, burned beyond recognition, dropped near his cage, and then burst, giving me full access to his Jinchuriki's body. They will find out, but I can say that I was just worried about my brother in misfortune. I bite my tongue and instantly correct myself. I continue. By great luck, they won't prove anything else. But if they catch me manipulating someone else's subconscious, I definitely won't escape the interrogation. You won't leave him anyway. Kurama chuckled, but sensing my displeasure, he instantly backed down. Although you are right, in this case there are more chances to get rid of it. If at all I have to. Tanuki laughed, watching with interest as I sat down next to Utakata and began scanning him. Well? Saiken asks me with well-hidden concern after I interrupt the technique. There is no particular damage. I calmly state the truth, which is already clear to everyone. He's just in a coma, and quite deep. If you use the usual methods, he will not wake up soon. What if unusual? Kurama asks with interest and, ignoring the displeased hiss from Saiken and Shikaku, comes closer. However, he does not violate a certain boundary, although he comes as close to it as possible. To enter true sage mode, I need all 9 parts and the Sanchakra. I shrug and, seeing the bewilderment in the Biju's eyes, explain in more detail. Then I will be able to reach him, because I roughly understand where he is. I was there when I talked to Rikudo. Not yet death, but no longer life. What does she want? Shikaku's dissatisfied voice sounded from behind Kurama, who blocked his entire view. Saiken, are you ready to sacrifice some of your chakra to her? Instead of answering, Red turned to Rokubi. Now he's just sleeping. Will this really help him? The sage mode flies away from me in an instant, and I lean on my hands, breathing heavily. I nod to him. Although I won't promise anything, I also thought that in the subconscious it is easier to manage. At least, honestly. What a bummer! Saiken shook his head. 2 weeks without using chakra. Small streams of his chakra reached out to me, words thundered over my head. Without hesitation, it was a week. I sit in the lotus position, almost instantly finding myself next to the imperturbable fox. And at that moment, I completely forgot about fatigue, which lasted less than a minute. In vain, by the way. As soon as I loosened my control a little, she returned and I had to lean on his paw so as not to fall. Right, Red agreed with me, but noticing my relief, he continued mockingly. And after you use chakra now, it becomes 2. Kurama! I made a pleading face and looked devotedly into the scarlet eyes, pleadingly. You know that I can't stand this much. 13 days. He makes concessions to me. Let's say a week and a half? I offer a compromise. Okay, I agree. Seeing my joyful smile, he prints, 11 days. It's not fair. I was indignant, counting on only 10, or even 9. You suggested it yourself. He shrugs. Are they always like this? Saiken asks Shikaku curiously. For the most part. Shikaku agrees with him. However, soon you will see and feel everything for yourself. You are right, gurgles, as I later realized this is what his laugh sounds like, Rokubi. Okay, we have to go. I glanced displeasedly at the amused Shikaku, and then, without waiting for a reaction to my words, I disappear from someone else's subconscious. How much time has passed in the real world? I quietly ask my large-caliber cockroaches. 3 minutes. Shikaku answers clearly. If you hurry, you may well have time to escape. Kurama compliments his answer, for I do not sense the sources of life on the floor. Hi! I wasn't going to stick around anyway. I nod in agreement and get up with some difficulty. And I was so hoping that it would work out. It didn't work out. Well, at least my general condition is much better than it was when I woke up, but it's still worth hurrying up and getting an alibi. Gaara woke up, Shikaka said, and, after thinking a little, added, and the barrier doesn't let him through, unlike you, which is very strange. So I'll go to him, maybe I'll find out what's the matter. I nod to my thoughts and take off. Somehow I don't want to catch the eye of those who are responsible for the barriers, or even get caught in general. Chapter 45. Half an hour in the life of an Uzumaki. Having outlined my priority goals, I no longer hesitated and quickly moved from the room with Utakata to the room with Gaara. There they were already waiting for me, if not with open arms, then somewhere close to it. At least Gaara stood in front of the door and tried to kill her with his gaze. The door, naturally, did not succumb to his provocations and stood to death. Hello? To be honest, I was a little confused when, opening the door, I met my friend's hard gaze. How did you do it? Instead of a greeting, Gaara stunned me with a question, and I even staggered back in surprise. Hurry up, it's going to get crowded soon. Kurama hissed in my subconscious, and against my will, I looked back. I didn't see or feel anything new or anyone, but I decided not to argue, because he was right. Hanging around in front of someone else's room is not an option, especially since my energy will soon run out and I might not be able to stay on my feet. What happened? I decided to check with Gaara, carefully going inside his room and closing the door, and then sidestepped to the side. To my surprise, he continued his attempts to ignite the piece of wood with his gaze, deciding to ignore absolutely all my body movements. Past the barrier, Gaara responded, looking at me with a gloomy look, and then returning to contemplating the door. Did you just get up and walk away? Looking somewhat uncertainly in his direction, I responded. Instead of answering, Gaara walked to the door and, opening it, tried to get out, but to my surprise he didn't succeed. Try pushing him, Kurama suggested excitedly. Maybe he doesn't put in enough effort. He's doing fine. Was offended for his Jinchuriki Shikaku, but after thinking a little, he added, try it anyway, I'll explain everything to Gaara now. An incomprehensible gurgling was heard in the back of my consciousness. Apparently it was Saiken who was amused. Fine, I agree, and after a couple of seconds I asked the younger dog, ready? Yes, short nod, and now I'm trying to push Gaara out. I approach this with all my imagination, push in different ways, but he only gets flattened against the barrier. Where's the justice? What are you doing here? Came the stunned voice of Akeoaji-san, and only after that I noticed that there are already 6 people watching us, and all of them are tall, broad-shouldered, red-haired and look like clones, because of the same type of masks, all of them, except Aji-san. Don't tell me that my movements pulled off one of the clan's fighting fives? They'll be cooler than an ANBU squad. And then they rushed over in just a couple of minutes and looked with stunned eyes at Gaara, who was almost flattened against the barrier, and me, enthusiastically pushing him. I wonder if they came to calm us down or not? Still, the picture that presented itself to them is not for the faint of heart. However, maybe they will think that the Bija have seized control over us and are now having fun? Although, you have a funny Jinchuriki, Kurama. Okubi's mocking voice sounded, thereby interrupting my thoughts and saving their fragile psyche from the violence of my fantasies. Especially his thoughts. I told you so. Shikaku laughed. She's fun. That's it. Red growled displeasedly at him. Yes, and her father recognized her. Then you will argue. I only interrupted the emerging, if not a scandal, then an argument on high notes. Now it's better to tell me, why the hell are the fighting 5 of the clan here? Not because of my movements? It is unlikely, Saiken's voice sounded, but he did not explain his thought further. Kurama continued to speak instead. They were originally assigned to monitor the perimeter. Kurama snorted. But they weren't allowed inside. Tsunade literally kicked them all out with a fight. With the help of your mother, of course. What, did you just drink it? I didn't believe the words of the fox. No, there were simply too many victims and doctors were needed at the village hospital. Shikaku responded instantly, and then a strange slap and an indignant exclamation were heard. Hey! Don't worry, Naruto. It's nothing serious. Although there have been deaths, Kurama's voice was unusually serious. You did not have life-threatening injuries, like the rest of the Jinchuriki. After all, we are patching you up, and the Uzumaki were hindering us, so I asked Kushina to help. I see. I say quietly, I don't have the strength for something louder and more energetic. I really hope that this time it would be better. Naruto, maybe you'll already answer me and at the same time stop squashing the Kazekage's son into the barrier? Aji-san's dissatisfied voice wedged itself into my consciousness, and only after that I realized that all this time I had been stupidly staring at the arriving Uzumaki, and at the same time I was crushing Gaara, who was not even indignant at this state of affairs. Of course, I understand everything, I'm young, but your fiancé won't mind? Who's going to ask this Uchiha? Kurama grumbled, barely hearing even a hint that I owed something to one of the Uchihas. True, it's a pity that our conversation was interrupted. I feel that the bijou would have told me a lot more. I am especially interested in where I am. Still, although not too much, the local premises are different from the usual wards of the Konoha hospital, and there are no people, which is strange, considering the number of victims that Kurama mentioned. Oh, sorry, Gaara. I immediately fell away from the guy, otherwise the pose really turned out to be too frank. Although, on the other hand, what can be frank about pushing with your back? But who knows these Uchihas? But I don't want to check. No, I'm sure that Sasuke is unlikely to believe anyone, even if they complain to him about me, but why spread rumors? Although I know that your defense did not fail, I still overdid it, sorry. Everything is fine, the Shikaku carrier calmly told me. Naruto. But Aji-san was already starting to boil because I was ignoring him. Well, I didn't do it on purpose. However, it's okay, now we'll fix it. The main thing is don't overplay. We conducted an experiment. I take on a mysterious look and look at Aji-san with honest eyes. Which? Taking a deep breath, Akeo Aji-san asked me patiently. What an excerpt! Bachan would have smeared me all over the wall. It's good that Aji-san is not Tsunade. I can pass through the barrier. I walk picturesquely through the barrier into which Gaara was recently pressed. And I point to the guy with his hands folded on his chest, inform and look towards the recently arrived Uzumaki. To my surprise, they look dumbfounded and look at me as if Rikudo was appearing to the people. I didn't understand, did they just now realize that I was not in my room? I decide to clarify this point and carefully ask, Aji-san? Suddenly, hearing my question, he instantly pulled himself together and exchanged glances with the other red-haired men. Take another walk, niece. Fine, I shrug and go back into the room, and then leave. Aji-san exchanges glances with his clanmates again, and then arguments begin, in which I understand nothing. It's not fair. Stop whining and ask. Kurama's dissatisfied voice was heard. I myself am interested in what they have done with the barriers. Dear, explain to me, so illiterate, what surprised you? I used Kachan's favorite trick and add a generous portion of Ki, which Red willingly donated to me. The result followed instantly. The debaters immediately jumped back and tensed. And, having realized that the reaction is not quite what I expected, I raised my eyebrows in displeasure, trying to copy Neji. That's who, and in his time he knew how to put anyone in their place with one look. Akeo, your niece the real Uzumaki and the true daughter of Kushina. It's a pity she will leave us, said one of the clone brothers, appreciating my antics. Enlighten her, sometimes a fresh look is needed. The barrier should not allow Jinchuriki to pass through, plus it should absorb the chakra of the bijou while you are inadequate, they told me quite straightforwardly. Hence the question, how did you get through? Does the barrier only react to aggressive chakra? I asked with interest. In what sense? Aji-san was amazed. As a Jinchuriki, she is always aggressive. Even Kushina was unable to learn Irajutsu, although initially she had good performance. Well, then it's clear why he didn't react to me. I shrug and instantly lose interest in what is happening. I'm still not a completely ordinary Jinchuriki, and in fact, my chakra is neutral, because I'm the bearer of Datara without Datara, no matter how strange it may sound. Well, the tree god, this is the concentration of the chakra of nature itself. In general, the barrier does not see me as a Jinchuriki. For it I am part of the environment, and the fact that the spot is too compact and structured. The barrier has only specified parameters and cannot change its characteristics independently. In general, he was strictly oriented towards the Jinchuriki, from which the bijou is trying to get out, and not towards various anomalies, so he doesn't see me. I don't violate the given parameters, which means there is no need to detain me. I'm sure Kachan is the same parsley. After all, Karama is no longer in her, and he left her only light chakra, which also contributed. Maybe you can share what you understand. Aji-san asked me affectionately, as they say a second before the explosion, and the men standing next to him began to carefully move away from him. One glance was enough for me to understand that, yes, now it's better to explain everything if you want to live. I don't have aggressive bijou chakra, I shrug and, innocently batting my eyelashes, look at Akeo Aji-san. How is that? He was surprised, approaching me and starting to move his hands over me, which were slightly glowing green. Wow! What did you find? The others instantly appeared next to me, starting to turn in different directions and scan in different places. Help! I wheezed pitifully, feeling even worse than when they forced me to try on suits for my engagement. There I could at least strengthen my skin with chakra so that I wouldn't be poked with needles, and I was healthy, not like now. Be strong, I already told Kushina. Karama responded instantly. She and Tsunade will come here soon. Shikaku! I whined pitifully, hoping that he would give some of his chakra to Gaara and that he would protect me with sand, otherwise I don't like the shine of learned naturalists in the eyes of those present. The barrier won't let my chakra through, Tanuki responded with wild regret, and let it through your channel's suicide. First of all, just for you, you haven't forgotten that you can't use chakra, have you? Let me go, you monsters! I squeal, because the smartest one suddenly took out a syringe and was about to do something bad with it, but in vain I remembered about the needles. But that's okay, but I don't like those two over there who blocked my hands. I won't give in alive! I'll just take a couple of cubes. A man with a syringe tried to persuade me and began to carefully approach me with it. However, he did not inspire confidence in me, and the point here was not only that he was wearing a mask. I just heard someone say that such material is lost. Moreover, in the tone with which Orochimaru once said, Sasuke-kun will be mine. Well, I had the appropriate associations, so I firmly decided, I won't give in alive. And I don't care that it's for science, I have exactly as much blood as I need, and not an ounce more. And let all those who disagree go through the forest. Preferably raised by the kind grandfather Hashirama. Yes, I'm talking about the forest of death. I have nothing unnecessary in it. I howled, sharply hit the legs of the shinobi holding me and tried to escape into the room to Gaara, who stood tensely behind the barrier. However, I didn't have time, I was intercepted by Aji-san, the traitor. Infection! One of the clone brothers cursed. Stop immediately! Our fuss was stopped by a menacing shout from behind the men. They instantly dispersed, and I was pleased to see the furious Ka-chan and Aoi and I. Instead of Anai-san, it would be better to have Ta-san or Ba-chan, but what is not there is not there. Let's be glad for what is there. Reinforcements have arrived! Shikako commented mockingly. You better prepare Gaara. I cut off Tanuki's fun, instantly calculating how I could get out of the situation in which I found myself, and with the least losses. For what? Shikako was surprised. To improvise, Kurama muttered. Now she will blow the minds of all of them. Now he spoke with anticipation. However, I resolutely fenced myself off from the Biju. Now my connection with them could interfere with what was planned, which I would absolutely not want. Ka-chan, I sob and immediately sag in Aji-san's steel arms. Ka-chan, they wanted to experiment on me. And I haven't recovered from my injuries yet. With a trembling hand I point to the red-haired man who has already hidden the syringe and add, and this one threatened with a syringe for a couple of liters, sob. He wanted to draw blood from me, sob. What? Ka-chan's Ki became even more concentrated. Is it true? But Anai-sen looked at me skeptically. However, I wouldn't have believed myself after that fun week that he experienced through my fault. But this is not a reason to doubt my adored Imuto. However, and not at all adored either. This means that we should finish him off, and at the same time make him forget this bunch of Uzumakis, why they rushed here at breakneck speed. No, they can remember everything later, but the moment will be missed. I have witnesses too. I declare hysterically and, not forgetting to sob, look at Aoi offendedly. I'm not impressed, I can see from his look, but Ka-chan has already matured and now can barely restrain herself from committing fratricide. Anai-sen raises an eyebrow skeptically. Yes. Freeing one hand and wiping the tears courageously squeezed out of my eyes, I declare, and with a shaking hand, pointing towards Gaara, I declare, Gaara saw everything from the very beginning and can confirm. Gaara-kun? Aoi and I cast an attentive glance at him. Shikako? I asked quietly. Yes, the reaction to my request is immediate, and Gaara nods. Naruto came to visit me, and then these guys showed up, a casual nod to the Uzumaki, who clearly did not expect such a thing. At first everything was fine, but then it turned out that we could not leave the chambers because of the barriers. But for some reason this did not affect Naruto. Then they began to scan her with some kind of jutsu, and then one of them took out a syringe. Akeo and I, Ka-chan sang affectionately, and then she looked first at Aji-san, and then at the red-haired clone brothers, that they instantly disappeared from sight. Akeo Aji-san wanted it too, but Ka-chan didn't let him, managing to grab him by the ear in some unimaginable way. Are you coming with me? Turned to Aoi, and she orders, You'll stay with your sister. A gentle smile at me and a quiet promise to return as soon as she finishes, and then she leisurely walks further down the corridor, easily dragging Aji-san's rather large body behind her. So how true is your story? As soon as Ka-chan disappeared from our eyes, Aoi and I turned in my direction, and I realized that he didn't believe the words of either Gaara or me one bit. Entirely, I shrug, but to be fair, I clarify, only the syringe was smaller, but everything else pure truth. Somehow I can't believe it, and Anai-sen glanced at me incredulously. Actually, it's true, I muttered dissatisfiedly, feeling that communication with relatives has exhausted me. What happened to you? Aoi was instantly alarmed and picked me up in his arms, ignoring my half-hearted objections. I'm fine, I just ran out of energy. I frowned with displeasure and stopped struggling. It won't do any good anyway. Gaara, you won't be offended if they take me back to the room, will you? I looked guiltily at my friend, with whom I was never able to chat due to the current circumstances. Fine, Gara nodded, and my Anai-san, grunting, dragged me back. Oh, Anai, you talked to Aji-san. After all, keeping a woken Jinchuriki locked in the room is stupid, I quietly asked my brother, who is carrying me in his arms. And what about herself? There's laughter in Aoi's voice. Well, it seems to me that after today it's better for me not to come into his sight, I answer very honestly, noting to myself that the way back doesn't take that much time, especially if it was done on someone else's hands. That's for sure. The answer was laughter, and so they carried me into my room and carefully laid me on the bed. True, this answer did not satisfy me, and I began to drill a hole into Anai-san with my gaze. He soon got tired of it and nodded in agreement. Jubi with you, I'll do it. Thank you. I allow myself a little childishness and throw myself on Aoi's neck. You are the best Nei-san in the world. Yes, yes, yes. I know, he snorted, and the next second I felt something prick me in the neck. Now go to sleep. Consciousness began to fade. Sleeping pills? Again? When will this end? Well, that's okay. I'll recover and start taking revenge on him. Okay, when did Aji-san catch me like that, but Nei-san? Apparently, last time didn't teach him anything. Although, okay, I'm too sleepy, and it's easier to recover in a dream, so let him live. I stop fighting some kind of poison and fall into a deep, dreamless sleep. Chapter 46. Explanations are postponed. I don't know how long I slept like that, but the next time I woke up I felt noticeably better. At least I was able to get to my feet on the first try, and when I got to the closet, I saw some semblance of normal clothes. No, there wasn't my usual combat kimono or tracksuit, but there was a dress star. An ordinary sundress that can be worn on the street, but which definitely does not suit a kunoichi, or rather, it would fit, but I can't use chakra, and no one bothered to put a seal on it. In general, they left me, poor unfortunate, without a weapon. It's good that they at least took care of a change of underwear, otherwise its absence does not add confidence. However, it's a pity that my pouch is not there. Although Kami-sama has a pouch, I agree with one single kunai. However, I have seals on my hands, in which I sealed all the throwing iron. However, I don't remember how many weapons I have left there. I need to check. Naruto, don't be foolish. Why do you need weapons in a hospital that is located within the Uzumaki quarter? Kurama's voice pulled me out of my thoughts, and at the same time stopped my attempt to print at least something from the body seal. Besides, have you forgotten that you can't use chakra? Well, I'm just a little bit. I whined, not wanting to admit that this prohibition had really slipped my mind. A couple drops of chakra won't change anything. Not even a few drops. Kurama reacted instantly. You and I have already discussed this. You only have a little less than 9 days left to endure. Then check it out. But the weapon, I tried to object. For what? Red interrupted me. Well, I faltered and tried to understand, really, why. If you believe the words of the fox, and I have no reason not to believe him, I am in the most protected part of Konoha, so why do I need a weapon? When you come up with an answer, we'll decide whether you need it now. Kurama concluded, never getting a clear answer from me. I sigh heavily and, hanging my head doomedly, go to the bathroom with my things, and only after that does it dawn on me that Red said that not 10, but 9 days are left. Was it that I was unconscious for more than a day? It can't be, and Aizen didn't use the strongest poison, and my body couldn't have sunk so much? Unless someone helped him, for example, Bachan or some other sufficiently skilled ironing. I try not to think at all about the fact that this could be the tricks of a bijou. Stop! I freeze on the threshold of the bathroom and cautiously clarify. You said 9 days left? Well, yes. The fox agreed with me casually. 2 days have passed since your brother knocked you out. Why so long? I was amazed and, frozen, set off for new achievements. In general, shower room, wait for me. Fortunately, someone had already taken care of my comfort, and there was shower gel, but no shampoo. Well, it's okay, we're not proud and we'll make do with the means at hand. It's my fault. Saiken suddenly intervened while I was fighting with the valves and convincing them that even without chakra they were obliged to give me warm water. Your body was getting used to my changed chakra. I don't remember something like this with Kurama or Shikaku. I react skeptically to Slime's words and muffled swearing, admit my defeat and reluctantly stand under the cold streams. Yes, even when I traveled with Jiraiya and meditated under the waterfall, the water there was warmer. But, on the other hand, I will fully wake up and come to my senses. It's because you were unconscious with Kuchan. I heard a sarcastic remark from Shikaku, and I could only hope that Kurama wouldn't kill him, and I'm completely healthy. Do you think so? I clarified and quickly turned off the water, finishing washing not only my body, but also my hair in a record 2 minutes. Now I just had to figure out where the towel was. Considering that I didn't see him in the closet, or in the bathroom, bad thoughts suggested themselves. Shuchan, a sharp, dull blow, after which Kurama continues in an unchanged voice. Right, you were then unconscious for a long time, adapting to my increased capabilities. All Jinchuriki go through this. But after that you received Tanuki's chakra and digested it without problems. Still, he did not completely move into you. Are you saying that my condition depends on how much chakra you give me? I clarify, simultaneously spitting on everything and using a hospital gown instead of a towel. Not the best solution, but there was nothing else anyway, so why not use a new dress? And putting things on a wet body is still a pleasure. Not really, Kurama responds, but he is suddenly interrupted by a bang no less loud than Shikaku's before. I wonder if they will calm down soon? They're already starting to give me a headache. If you remember, you decided to help my Jinchuriki, despite the ban on the use of chakra. Saiken continued the red-haired man's speech, and all I could do was listen to him, ignoring the growls and dull blows that came in the background. Your chakra channels were not in the best condition even without this, and I had not contacted you before, so my chakra is much more dangerous for you than the chakra of the same Shikaku. Still, I didn't have confidence in you back then, sorry. Whatever. I chuckle, understanding perfectly well what caused this. After all, this Saiken is not exactly the same one who arrived with me, which means that the memories of our slug for him are just a picture, albeit too bright, evoking emotions, but a picture. I understand perfectly well that this is difficult to believe. It seems that I am beginning to understand Kurama, Saiken said rather incomprehensibly. And at the same time as his words, I heard someone burst into my room and began running from corner to corner with a loud stomp. Tsunade-sama, there is no one here. I was surprised to recognize the speaker as Shizuneni-san. Have I met her here or not yet? I haven't met. Kurama mutters, breathing suspiciously heavily, but the growl in the background has disappeared. Why not? Bachan's slightly muffled voice was heard, and the next second the door slammed again. Apparently she entered my room. And really no, so where could she have gone, Akeo? Who swore to me, Rikudo, that your barriers would not let anyone through? She's in the bathroom. Aji-san reacts quite calmly to other people's attacks. Kurama, what about Akeo Aji? I carefully asked my friend, mentally trying to figure out what I should expect from him. Moreover, I set him up so much in front of Ka-chan, what will happen to him? Lise was surprised. Kushina didn't commit any particular atrocities, and his dramatic dragging away from you was more of a distracting maneuver. How is that? I listen warily to the footsteps that are quickly approaching the door. There's a knock on the door, but I'm in no hurry to show that I hear everything. Naruto, are you there? Aji-san's quiet voice sounded. Around the first corner, she let him go and demanded an explanation. The fox told me displeasedly, and I, already about to open my mouth to answer Aji-san, froze in surprise. And I tried so hard, deliberately fogging my brain with my chakra, hoping that she would hit that bastard who was trying to dig deeper into the seal while you were sleeping, but no! It didn't work out. Brain fog? I kindly asked Kurama and immediately hear a strangled sigh. He clearly already regretted that he had let it slip. Don't worry, everything is arranged as if she herself overdid it and extracted more from me than she should have. Red told me sarcastically. I am not talking about that. I bark at him and watch warily as the door handle slowly turns. Are you sure she's there? I hear Bachan's voice full of doubt, and the door handle returns to its original position. Well, how do you think I should have acted at that moment? Kurama's offended voice sounded. Sure, Okeoaji calmly answers, and already turning to me, Naruto, either you go out or I come in. Sorry, thank you. I thank Red and hurry to the door. I still don't want Aji-san, who has lost his patience, to burst into the room. But next time, warn about this in advance. I'll think about it. Kurama chuckled offendedly, but I no longer had time to restore peace with him. The door opened, and I came face to face with Aji-san. Good morning, Aji-san. I politely nod at him and come across a look that pierces my entire being. Actually, it's already day, Bachan pedantically corrects me. So, good afternoon. I'm sure that not a single muscle on my face moved, although I was strained by such a close interest in my person. Why are you here? They wanted to check your condition. After all, it's already the third day after you were put to sleep, Bachan smiled. But for some reason I didn't really believe her. Shizen would have been enough for a regular check. Well, okay, I still understand Okeoaji's presence. You never know what kind of barriers they've created here, although he could have sent someone else. But that's okay, there's still one extra person. Yes? I raise my eyebrows in surprise and glance around at their entire group of gops. Just for inspection? No, we'd like to hear an explanation, Aji-san said, looking at me calmly. It depends. I carefully look at the determined man. It's not that I couldn't answer, but first you need to know what they're blaming me for, right? Let's first talk about how you passed the barrier, and then we'll figure it out, Aji-san suggested, but he was interrupted by the growling of my stomach. But I really don't remember the last time I ate normally. This needs to be fixed immediately. Moreover, the answer to Aji-san's question is quite simple, and it is not a fact that after they hear it, they will be satisfied, so you should seize the moment, while there is an opportunity. I pretend to think, and then in an innocent tone I say, feed me, I'll tell you. Extortionist Aji-san chuckles after exchanging glances with Bachan and, stepping aside, lets me out of the bathroom. But you're right, first you need to eat, let's go. Where? I carefully clarify, slipping out of the bath and looking towards Bachan, whose malicious smile I don't like, and for good reason. I don't get an answer, they just grab me by the shoulders and move me with shunshin. The sensations are strange and my head is spinning. I wonder why. Previously I myself moved in this way, and they moved me. Everything was fine, but here it is. In general, I had to frantically grab onto the one who so vilely took advantage of my inattention and dragged me away to an unknown location. To my surprise, the attacker hissed and cursed, but did not break away, allowing me to recover and look around on my own. Fortunately, no one was blocking the tailed ones and I was in no hurry to panic. Still, if there had been anything dangerous for me here, they would not have been so calm. Chapter 47. Lift the veil of secrecy. When I finally blinked and looked around, I realized two things. Firstly, I'm now in Aji-san's garden, standing not far from the door to the house, and secondly, I'm not holding the one who secretly moved me here, but Anai-san, and there's no one else around. By the way, Aoi doesn't look the most joyful, however, considering the fact that I clung to him with all my might, then it's not surprising. There will definitely be bruises on his arm and side. But now I understand why Kurama was so calm and didn't even try to help me. On the contrary, the sounds from the subconscious resembled carefully suppressed laughter. Sorry, Nei-san, I let go of my rightful prey and take a step to the side. Somehow I felt dizzy while moving. I noticed a malicious look, and he begins to rub the affected areas. Well, it seems like she recently portrayed a half-corpse, and her grip is worse than that of an Inuzuka Niken. Sorry, I apologized I would heal you, but with chakra in the next week, 9 days. Immediately came from Kurama. I won't be able to use it, I finished my thought, ignoring Red's scream. A week? And I-san somehow twitches strangely at my words. Can't use chakra? Yes. I agree with the nervous Aoi. Kurama, what is he doing? Memory. It's a terrible thing. The fox responded, still unhappy that his words were ignored earlier. I understand that I don't understand anything. What does a week of inability to use my chakras and memory have to do with it? But I think he knows what he's talking about. Well, if you say so. I agree in bewilderment, and then look around in confusion, finally realizing what I don't like. By the way, where are the others? I notice the interested look of Ni-san, who has already recovered from his depressed state, and explain, well, at least Aji-san. After all, he moved me here, and Bachan and Shizen-san are unlikely to have stayed in my room. They immediately went into the house, leaving me to be torn to pieces by you, Aoi muttered. If I knew how it would all turn out, would have come to a Kyoaji an hour later. Well, don't grumble, nephew, Aji-san's mocking voice was heard, and the door to the house swung open. Better help your sister get to the gazebo, we'll feed her. As you say, and I-san sighs heavily and calmly picks me up in his arms, listening to my indignation at this with titanic calm and not letting me fall to the ground. True, I was in no hurry to break free or put pressure on the pressure points so that he would let me go. It still hurts to fall even from such a height, especially when you cannot strengthen the body with chakra, so I expressed my protest only with words. Well, and besides, I didn't forget to look at Aji-san's gorgeous orchard. After all, last time I didn't have time to look at it, and someone else's memory, that's not it. In addition, with new knowledge about ways to hide a variety of both barrier and trap seals, I noticed a lot of new things, and the appearance of such abandonment, and some wildness of the garden began to look completely different. Here, for example, is a path made of large round and flat stones, along which we walked to a gazebo hidden in the depths of the garden. I'm sure, on the back of each of them there are identification seals, and literally every pebble carries a surprise, and not necessarily an instant one. Even I can offhand think of a couple of dozen ways just with the seals I know, but what can we say about the true masters of Uzumaki? Especially the stones, this is the most obvious option, but who would suspect that those small bushes with blackberries hide some kind of seals under them? Moreover, I was able to recognize only one of the 12 I noticed, but how many are there really? And most importantly, each one is applied in such a way that it seems that it is not a print, but just a drawing on a roughened stem. I'm generally silent about the trees. They are so heavily painted that it seems they initially grew with war paint, and the chakraphone here is strange, somewhat similar to the forest of death, but weaker, I would even say invisible, but nevertheless he is. In general, even without entering hermit mode, I felt the Sanchakra diffused in the world around me, which was strange. Interestingly, it seems that Hashirama managed to make his mark in the Uzumaki quarter, but my more down-to-earth relatives, who were accustomed to the cramped conditions on the rocky shores of Uzushio, as well as the lack of decent soil, demanded that we grow useful plants, and not just interesting specimens. Naruto, stop yelling, Anisen said calmly. Well, or at least for the sake of decency, don't turn your head around, otherwise the effect will be blurred. What do you understand? I was indignant and pointed with my hand at the sea buckthorn bush, orange with ripened fruits, that we were passing at that moment. Hidden in the middle of the bush over there is a seal that can fire both a metal chain and a swarm of poison-coated kunai. And there are about a dozen similar seals. But on the apple tree, great, but what does all this have to do with you screaming in my ear to get you back on your feet? Aoi interrupts me ironically. I want to take a closer look at everything. I answer his question offended, but under his incredulous gaze I fall silent. He's still right. No matter how crazy I was, I couldn't not know the basic safety rules, and not being able to escape if something happened, I couldn't interfere with someone else's security system suicide. Well done, I didn't expect you to notice so much. Aji-sama's approving voice sounded, and looking in that direction, I saw that the path led us to a gazebo entwined with grapes with large ripe clusters, in front of which he stood. Well, it's good that your sense of self-preservation has not been completely eliminated. The indignation and you from understand that voice in such a state it's not worth going where and you shouldn't. And somehow Bachan with Erosen would be better if she didn't go anywhere too quickly, regardless of her condition. Simply walked away, dissatisfied voice warily from somewhere from the green curtain. All we needed was otherwise an international I don't scandal. Even know what the Mitsuki this is the first time I've heard it myself. Send them to Jubi. Instantly. Kachan's voice Yudakata has not yet come to his senses. Let them generally be so glad I don't know we anything. Didn't give them an ultimatum Gara for the actions to answer his father relatives. What kind of bijou they he forgot next insolent, to you, especially this Churumi. Not only is he drooling over tried you, to move on but is he going to demand something else from my daughter? He had heard that red hair I'll talk to her again, Uzumaki, and he would like to stay with his relatives longer, because I turned to the bijou about his blonde friend. Unfortunately for our yandame, at that moment Kushina was in the office, who innocently noticed that the Uzumaki clan agreed to check the level of kinship between Gara and the Uzumaki living in the leaf. I don't know what Raza is hiding, but he refused this, but delayed his departure for a week. You should have seen Minato's face at that moment. Kurama burst out laughing and added smugly, the picture was still the same, and then I couldn't resist and suggested that Kushina go and see how the negotiations with the Mizukage were going. So it's a scandal, is that all you care about? There was a noticeable feeling of CI coming from the gazebo. What about the fact that our daughter ended up in the hospital? By the way, it was precisely the fault of your favorite Mizukage. How could they even think of putting such a weak seal? Wow! I sincerely admire the skill of diplomacy that has begun to manifest itself in my friend, and then I conclude approvingly. He will be a great Kazakage. I'd prefer not to think about what Kurama said at all. The picture turns out to be too colorful, but Kachan's indignation is understandable. However, it's good that I was unconscious at that time, otherwise I could have fallen under the hot hand. Especially if she had gotten to the bottom of the fact that before the third stage I visited Tosan. Kushina, calm down, tried to reach out to Kachan Tosan. I myself am not going to give in to them, but you yourself know that our specialists found traces of Naruto's chakra on their Jinchuriki. Otherwise, Shikaku's voice sounds wildly proud. I'll make him a real ruler. And what? It seems that Tosan's words infuriated Kachan even more, rather than calming him down. They found traces of a protective seal. If not for this, who knows if this guy would have survived at all. You should still be grateful to her for her care. I'm grateful, but still. Tosan's voice becomes quieter. It looks like it's time to save him, but I have no desire to get under Kachan's hot hand. And Anai-san is in no hurry to let me go to Earth. What, still, Minato? The sound of a fist hitting the table and a loud crack of wood, followed by the eloquent sound of breaking dishes and silence. It seems that my nutrition is being covered with a copper basin, maybe, well, him? Anyway, there's no point in rushing to the gazebo now, which means let them do what they want, but first, I take it they won't feed me today? I calmly ask in the ensuing silence. Oh! Was eloquently heard from the gazebo after my question. Minato, it's all your fault. Don't worry, only the dishes were damaged, Aji-san reassured me, his eyes sparkling maliciously. We haven't had time to print the food yet. I just opened my mouth to clarify where I should actually go to get scrolls with food, preferably not even scrolls, but just printed food. They'll clean up the gazebo now, it's okay, Akeo Aji-san chuckled and, turning to the gazebo, calmly added, Am I right, Kushina, Minato? Of course, Akeo, sorry for the inconvenience, Tusan's heavy sigh reached our ears. Well, in the meantime, I'll go get the dishes. Ka-chan immediately got her bearings and slipped out of the gazebo, managing to kiss me on the cheek, pat Anai-san's hair and smile sweetly at Aji-san in less than 2 seconds, and then disappear from sight. Minato, Ero-sen shook his head and went to the gazebo first. Let me help. Thank you, sensei. Tusan thanked him. Oh, come on. Who will help you if not me? I can clearly hear the smile in Jiraiya's voice. You inherited from me a love for temperamental women. Perhaps I will help too, a chuckle is heard from Bachan, and she also hides in the bowels of the gazebo, followed by Aji-san, shrugging his shoulders. Well, 10 minutes later I was already seated on a bench, and in front of me on a completely new table that had been dragged out of nowhere, stood, what's this? Lostly I look around the vegetarian paradise that has opened up to me. Well, at least there wasn't a single piece of meat visible on the table littered with food. I'm generally silent about ramen or sweets. Yes, I even agreed to Shiruko, but Aino's favorite diet was placed in front of me when she once again went on a diet. You've been on intravenous nutrition for several days, so we don't know how your stomach will behave, so... Akeoaji smiles softly and gestures around the green paradise. Stomach? I look gloomily at Aji-san, who is pleased, like Tora, who ran away from Mrs. Shimizu. Yes, he nods in agreement. Uzumaki's? I clarify, seeing that the smug smile on Akeoaji's face is becoming wider and wider. Yes, again consent in response, and I have a desire to cripple him. But unfortunately, firstly, it's impossible. He's a relative, after all, and secondly, it's unlikely to work. At the Jinchuriki? I hope my question did not sound openly plaintive. Well, you can't use chakra yet? Just a few minutes ago I thought that it was impossible to smile wider. I was wrong to think so. This means that an ordinary person and his stomach react accordingly. Huh! In the back of my mind I heard sounds reminiscent of the death rattles of at least a herd of bulls. Apparently I shouldn't count on the Biju. Nei-san, stop it! Finally, Kachan intervenes in our conversation and, taking out a scroll, unsealed a large plate of hot yakitori ***. Savior! Now I was definitely happy with everything, although I had to share the meat with the others. Not only because of my awakened conscience, but also because of Bachan, who said that I needed a lot of vitamins to recover faster. So I had to eat stewed vegetables while eating meat. However, it's in vain that I'm pumping a barrel for vegetables. They were obviously prepared by Ka-chan, and she knows how to cook. True, I sincerely did not understand her desire to give me more greens. But to my joy, Aoi and I soon took pity on me and diverted Ka-chan's attention, and under the malicious glances of the others I quickly finished my portion and started drinking tea. I see you've eaten, Aji-san concluded calmly. Tell me. About the barrier? I clarify and, noticing how Akeoaji nods, At the same time, I shrugged my shoulders with Toussaint and seriously say, "Don't know." Naruto, Bachan cracked her knuckles threateningly, and even Kachan shook her head with displeasure and was about to say something clearly not in my defense. "Wait to swear," I raised my hands in a defensive gesture, putting down the cup of hot tea. "I will now explain to you what I meant by this." "And what?" Toussaint's frown didn't bode well for me if I was lying, but the point is that I'm telling the absolute truth. In my room, I didn't feel the barrier at all. I take the cup in my hands again and begin to spin it mindlessly. I noticed him only in other people's rooms. "And what were you doing in other people's rooms?" Toussaint mockingly clarifies with me, showing that my reservation did not go unnoticed by him. I wince from the realization of my own stupidity, but there is no turning back. I will have to answer, if not the truth, then definitely a half-truth. Utakata would not have woken up without my intervention. I look up at him with wildly tired eyes. Who would know how tired I am of all this? Solve other people's problems and hide behind meaningless phrases. Smile when you want to howl, and be careful when learning news about those who travel by detours. I wish I could team up with Sasuke as soon as possible and go on a journey, where we will be responsible only for ourselves and write reports once a month. It's a pity that this is not yet feasible. Why? Bachan was surprised at my answer, too loudly, in my opinion. However, I am grateful to her. She brought Toussaint out of his stupor, and I found the strength to hide my fatigue so deeply that no one else would see it. He was completely healthy. Physically, I shrugged and, noticing that Aoi and I had taken out a couple of dango sticks from somewhere, I quickly snatched one from his plate. In fact, only Rokubi kept him from taking the final step. Bijou generally do not like it when their carriers leave, with rare exceptions, of course. I chuckle, remembering my first experience of communicating with Kurama. However, even then he did not try to kill me, scare me and test my strength, find out the limits of my willpower, yes, but not to kill. "Come on." Erosenin raises his eyebrow mockingly. Each of them has pride. I don't give in to his provocation and remember my experience of communicating with Son Goku, and how he then scolded me for the lack of basic respect for his own Bijou. Well, and the fact that Kurama's such an ass, it didn't bother him at all, although it was my fault. Especially in this regard, Kyubi and Ichibi stand out. Both will not help, not even obey, but simply not interfere with the life of those who are considered not strong enough. Quite interesting information, but doesn't explain how you got through the barriers. Aji-san looked at me with an overly attentive gaze. As well as what you did in other people's chambers, given your own condition. Okay, I'll start in order. I nod in agreement to Akeoaji's question, who apparently took on the role of negotiator. However, why am I surprised? Whatever surname our family bears, we are part of the Uzumaki clan and, accordingly, must obey its head, and Toussaint's Hokage hat does not change anything. He entered the clan as an ordinary member, hence this incident. De jure he is the boss, but de facto subordinate. I'll start with the barriers. I really don't know why this happened, but I have some guesses. Which? But now Oi and I, who is probably taking part in such a high-profile meeting for the first time, couldn't stand it, and is nervous. But who knows? They didn't really open up to me, and I dropped out of the life of the village for a couple of days, so it's hard to say why Anai-san behaves this way. Maybe he had a conversation with someone before and only now he allowed himself to relax. In general, there can be many options. It is possible that none of the ones I proposed are correct. The Bijou chakra in me is neutral, and based on Aji-san's words that the barrier does not allow aggressive chakra to pass through, we can conclude that he did not notice me. I respond calmly. Neutral? Kachan chuckles incredulously. Well, not quite. I look offended at the one who supported me all this time, and now helps me drive me into a corner, but I only receive an apologetic smile in response. Tell the truth, Kurama unexpectedly advises. Just without meeting our father, just reveal the true power of my chakra in its simplest use. Whatever you say, I throw all my hesitations away, since Red agrees, it's worth saying. I look around at everyone present and answer with a heavy sigh, Biju part of Jubi, and Jubi this is the embodiment of natural energy. Each Biju received its own peculiarity of strength, and the pure energy of the Kyubi this is life and fire as its strongest manifestation. That is why only the Uzumaki and even the Senju, who were closest in terms of vital energy to our clan, could restrain it, and died after accepting it. They simply could not withstand such a consistency of pure, without any admixtures, energy of life, which was also saturated with the emanations of other people's hatred. The most striking example, Forest of Death. It was grown by Hashirama to get rid of the excess Kyubi chakra suppressed in Midosama, and now everyone can see the consequences of this. Suddenly, after a short silence, Toussaint is the first to come to his senses. However, this doesn't explain anything. I agree, but that's the only thing I can think of. I shrug and drink the remaining tea from the mug, and then put it on the table with a light knock. The barrier did not react to a non-aggressive carrier and did not even turn on in my room, but for the guys it reacted to them, so it did not detain me. We should check, said Aji-san, thoughtfully scratching his chin. Only without blood sampling and other self-harmful impulses, I respond instantly. The memories of that syringe are still fresh in my memory, and I never liked hospitals with IVs. I spent a lot of time there as a child, and the memories were not the most rosy. It is unlikely, of course, that it will be the same here, but there is no desire to check. And not before she recovers. Kachan immediately complimented my phrase, for which I was sincerely grateful to her. Nevertheless, I somehow didn't think about such a thing, and having the opportunity to use chakra, there are more chances to escape. No, I'm not afraid of Aji-san, but how can I say? I'm playing it safe here. All Uzumaki people are passionate, and I somehow don't want to check how strong this trait is in a Keoaji. Okay, a Keoaji-san agreed with our demands. Well, now tell us what you forgot in the chambers of other Jinchuriki, especially in the chamber of a relative of the Mizukage. Making sure that we agreed, Toussaint intervened. Minato! Kachan hissed. No need, Kachan, I have nothing to hide. I hurried to intervene, because I didn't want to be left at the broken table again because of their argument, and given some weakness, I wouldn't be able to dodge the falling food. Well, I definitely have no desire to walk dirty. I really was in his room, and as I already said, without my help he would not have woken up. I don't know what kind of seal Hiriko used, but it greatly weakened the connections between soul and body. In fact, if it weren't for Rokubi, who didn't want to let go of his Jinchuriki so easily, he would have already been dead. Or rather, not like that, we would have been left in our hands with a living body without a soul, which, whether it wants or not, would be captured by the Six Tails. I prevented this, but here's how I won't say, it's useless for you anyway, there are no Jinchuriki among you. However, Terumi-san will be able to verify on her own and quite soon that it is Utakata in front of her. And Kushina? Aji-san raises his eyebrow mockingly. Pseudo-Jinchuriki and real Jinchuriki have enough differences, Aji-san, and it's not even a matter of strength. I muttered and folded my arms over my chest, saying, and in general, I won't say another word until they answer a couple of questions myself. Which ones? Toussaint snorted into his cup of tea. Where is Sasuke? My question made not only Toussaint, but also Anai-san, who was sitting next to me, choke on his tea. He is in his clan, Aji-san responded evasively, watching as I pat Aoi on the back with all my heart. And what? I had no intention of retreating. I wanted to finally see him and make sure that everything was okay with him. No, I trusted Kurama when he reported his vision problems, but given his ardent love for the Uchihas, he could have greatly downplayed the scale of the problem. He's blind, Bachan said in a casual tone, and, noticing the evil looks on herself, she added quite calmly, not telling her about it now will not make the problem go away. That's right, but… Kachan was a little confused and indignant. It's not worth it, Kachan, I assumed something like that. I pursed my lips, stopping my mother's indignant speech. Mangekyo puts too much strain on his eyes, and in the arena he got a lot of trouble, and the suppression of the bijou it's not an easy matter. If you knew, why did you ask? Aoi and I was indignant. I want to meet him. I ignore Anai-san's indignation and simply look intently at Tu-san, and then turn my dissatisfied glance at Aji-san. I hope this can be arranged. Okay, I'll talk to Fugaku today, Tu-san agrees after a short exchange of glances with Aji-san. But it's unlikely to happen before tomorrow. Fine, I agree, although I am dissatisfied with the answer. Tomorrow is tomorrow, but I should rest a little. Certainly. Kachan immediately reacts, and when he notices that I am starting to yawn, covering my mouth with my palm, he generally develops vigorous activity. Nei-san, we'll use the guest room. Without waiting for an answer, he turns to Aoi and orders, take Naruto and follow me. Whatever you say, Kachan, and Ai-sen agrees in a doomed tone, and without resistance I allow him to pick me up and carry me somewhere. The conversation tired me, and the hearty food relaxed me. I wanted to sleep, and it's worth talking to the bijou, but a little later, and now I'm going to sleep. Chapter 48. Other people's feelings. The sleep had a beneficial effect on my body, and in the morning I woke up in a complacent mood, ready for new accomplishments. However, the first impulse to jump up and go explore the territory passed quickly. I still remembered that I was visiting relatives, so my curiosity awoke. Opening my eyes, I decided to explore a little the room allocated from the generosity of relatives. The first thing that caught my eye was a window that someone too caring had left uncurtained, and from there the sunlight was shining straight into my eyes. Having blinked and shielded my eyes from the bright light with my hand, I continued to look around the room, which, to my surprise, turned out to be a soft green color with painted maple leaves, done with amazing accuracy and with a range of colors from young greens to dark red shades. The situation was not spoiled even by the feeling that behind the external gloss there was a whole complex of seals that were not active, or would it be more correct to say that my parameters were included in the security fuin complex? Doesn't matter. I leave unnecessary thoughts and look further, noticing a table standing in the right corner, on which there are a couple of books with a suspiciously familiar orange cover. I get up from the bed, which turned out to be not very large, an ordinary, I would say, single bed, only long, more than 2 meters, and plop my bare feet on the floor towards the object that interests me. Along the way, I notice that they changed me into soft pajamas, but I have no interest in who did it and when. Coming closer to the table, I am convinced that my eyes did not deceive me and that the well-known first series of Come, Paradise are actually lying on the table. I leave the literature with dubious contents alone saw what and they continue left for the inspection, read. But after probably a couple of minutes I am forced to admit that there is nothing more interesting. Just a small cabinet built into the wall and a door to the bathroom. But nothing unusual was found either there or there. Only in the closet is my favorite kimono with equipment, and a large terry towel in the bathroom. I had to admit that they still left me with the most necessary things, which means there's no need to slow down. I feel great. Therefore, grabbing a towel and clothes, I went to taste the fruits of civilization, cheerfully humming to myself a catchy tune I had recently heard. Fortunately, everything here was arranged in such a way that there was no need to supply chakra anywhere, which means there was no need to wait for an unauthorized ice shower. How wonderful it is to soak under the warm streams, especially exposing your face to the gentle flow. I see that your mood is already much better. Kurama's voice sounded too good-naturedly, in my opinion. There is a little. I agreed and clarified with suspicion. Why are we so peaceful? He no longer needs to suppress his evil nature. Shikaku's caustic comment came in response. Huh? I open my eyes with open amazement and exhale noisily, sucking in air so that after a couple of moments I begin to spit and tried to blink. Still, it was not worth doing such a thing under a running shower, and even raising my head up. Disgusting. Having managed somehow, I specify much more gloomily, so what about suppression? Neutralization of chakra, ridding the energy transmitted to you of negative emotions, the tanuki said lazily. Call it what you want, the result is the same. He doesn't need to do this anymore. Shikaku, I called affectionately, fully aware that I did not understand anything from his explanations. He wants to say that I can move from your subconscious to Kushina's subconscious, Naruto. Kurama answered instead of Ichibi. At least as long as you're close enough to each other. Well, as a result, in order for the infusion of Saiken's chakra to be as painless for you as possible, I mostly ended up in your mother's subconscious. This is not dangerous? I was alarmed. After all, I'm used to Red and I don't want to lose him. Not at all, the fox answered me calmly. Besides, I already went back, and, as you can see, it had a good effect on your body. What then does your evil nature have to do with it? I am amazed and turn off the valve. The wash is done, it's time to look for breakfast. Your mother is always with Mikoto, Red stated accusingly. And? I'm sincerely surprised, not understanding why Sasuke's mother didn't please him. She, in my opinion, was the sweetest woman. It's even amazing that her sons have such specific shitty people. Moreover, both the youngest and the elder one field of berries. She's an Uchiha. Kurama howled sadly, and from surprise I almost got tangled in the sleeves of the clothes I was putting on. Can you imagine a few days in the company of either the Uchihas or your daddy? I imagine. I can barely restrain myself from the urge to grin knowingly. It seems that I understand what the problem is, but he won't get any sympathy from me. In high spirits, I get out of the bath and, going to the closet, begin to attach a pouch with a weapon. You don't understand a thing, my friend panted indignantly in response. 3 Day succeeded. In their society, not being able to do even the smallest thing. You'd think I'm allowing you to do nasty things to them. I can hardly restrain myself from laughing while answering and slammed the empty closet shut. No, but here I have company and the opportunity to get distracted. Red muttered offendedly, and then changed the subject. By the way, you can be happy, you were allowed to meet Sasuke. Is it true? I joyfully jump on the spot and rush like a comet towards the exit from the room, only to stumble after a couple of moments and fly through the threshold that I had not noticed. I understand that I hasten to conclusions, that everything is fine with me, a strange weakness takes over my body, and I close my eyes doomedly. However, I didn't have time to get to know the floor. Someone managed to grab me across the waist. Of course, I'm cool, but not so cool that you would fall on your knees in front of me. I hear Aoenai's mocking voice from above and I open my eyes, and then slowly raise them, making sure that my hearing did not deceive me and this is really my Anai-san. Alive, healthy and still with an impudent smile on half his face. I'll keep it on mind, I respond dissatisfied, fully aware that he has only one reason to smile and that is me. Did you want something? Yes, wake you up and take you to breakfast. The smile on Aoenai's face became even wider, although how much more? And so he almost cracks with self-satisfaction. It's a pity that I can't use chakra, otherwise I would have found how to erase it. I have a lot of things stored in my seals. But you made my mission easier by falling into my arms. Well, since you caught me, take me to breakfast, I said in a cheerful voice, finally thinking of what I could do to feel at least a little revenge. Well, taking advantage of his slight confusion, I deftly climb onto Anai-san's back, pretending to be a monkey. No, I could have broken free and then, feigning offended innocence, stomped towards the kitchen, but I had at least 2 reasons not to do so. First, I didn't like the weakness that came on too sharply, but I was still in a good mood. Great, but my body is letting me down. In general, I have no desire to check how okay I am. Well, the second one. I just wanted to feel the warmth of a loved one next to me, to feel again that I have a family, and someone will be next to me simply because I exist. No, I understand perfectly well that I'm never alone and somewhere deep inside I'm always warmed by Kurama's presence. But he's not human and doesn't understand a lot. I needed ordinary human warmth that would convince me that this was not a dream and that my family consisted of more than just Sasuke and Kurama. Okay, monkey, whatever you say, as I expected. And I did not get angry, but laughed cheerfully and carried me further along the corridor, which, to my disappointment, ended unacceptably quickly, and we found ourselves in the living room that was already familiar to me. Happy awakening, Yamato. As soon as I walked in, Noriani immediately drew attention to me, who looked amazingly bad, and not only because of the bags under her eyes, her look, the look of a hunted animal. What happened to her during this time? Good morning, I glanced towards the mechanical watch, which I didn't notice on my last visit, and correct myself, or rather, good afternoon, Annie-chan. You look a bit rumpled, and by the way, where is everyone? As always, straightforward, Nariko chuckles in response. The rest of the people are busy and don't have time for you, so you can relax. They won't be there until the evening. Are you like no? I narrow my eyes sarcastically, looking at Noriani, and unable to resist, add, Nichan, are you really an ANBU? Yes, a doomed sigh, and she somehow wearily turns away and points to the already set table between 2 sofas, adds, sit down and eat. What's happened? The goofy mood instantly disappears. Still, it's unusual for me to see Nariko in such a state. She's Uzumaki. And no less so than me. And here is the reaction. Shursui is also blind. Instead of Annie-chan, Aoi answers barely audibly, carefully removing me from his back. And also Itachi. I raise my eyebrow in surprise, remembering how she dynamized him, and shake my head. It seems that all Uzumakis can boast of late ignition, but I still need to clarify, so I turn to Nichan and clarify. Nariko, why did you push Shursui-san away if you're killing yourself like this now? Noriani responded in confusion. Don't tell me that you expected romance from the Uchiha. I raise my eyebrow in surprise and, judging by the reddened cheeks of Nichan, I hit the nail on the head. Well done! I shake my head in shock. But Sasuke took you to the movies. Already more emotional and similar to my Na-chan, Nariko exclaimed. He gave flowers. I bought ice cream. Took me to a dango cafe. Stop. I interrupted Noriani's outpouring and, waiting for her to pay attention to me, sarcastically asked, Don't tell me you were following us. Well, Nichan looks away. I have no words, but we only went to the cinema once during this time, to the Dango Cafe 5 times, and half of the times I was accompanied by Itachi, the other half was Shursui or Aoi. I don't remember about ice cream at all, although. Exactly. This was in the early days. We were returning from training then, it was hot, and there was no desire to go home, so we decided to take a walk around the village. Well, and there we saw an ice cream stand. Sasuke is not a big fan of sweets, but he couldn't resist my onslaught, and I don't even remember that gloomy face taking me anywhere. However, He dragged me to all the listed places only because we needed to talk without unnecessary ears or confuse the surveillance. But now it's clear who the San hired to keep an eye on me. Na-chan, I'm moved by you. I sighed tiredly, and at her perplexed look I explained. I received everything you listed only by declaring my desire in the form of an ultimatum. How is that? Aoi and I blinked stupidly. You just present a fact. I want to go here and there. I shrug and finally plop down on one of the sofas, but I don't touch the food yet. Otherwise, you won't get an invitation for 300 years, because Uchiha and romance things are incompatible. However, you are lucky. Shursui-san is quite adequate, or rather, he and Itachi the most adequate Uchihas I have ever met. And Sasuke no? There was a snort in response. Sasuke, I remember the whole time I became acquainted with the topic, how we competed, how many times he almost killed me, and I confidently answer, definitely not Sasuke. You can believe me, his adequacy this is a most skillful game, and he has cockroaches in his head worse than Aburame. Holy words. Kurama's cheerful voice sounded in my head, but thank Kami-sama, he did not develop the topic further. Yes? Nariko is surprised, and then somehow goes out again, and wearily waves it away. However, what difference does it make now? We won't be allowed to meet anyway, and even if we meet then what? It's you in vain I object, although I know perfectly well that it is useless. Sometimes support makes all the difference. Knowing that someone needs you. Perhaps, but how will my support affect his vision? Noriani smiles sadly, and I realize that I was right. She heard what I said, but didn't listen. It's bad, but not fatal, although you'll need to get to Shursui and see how he's doing. Perhaps it will be possible to help him, and not just Sasuke. Damn, it looks like we'll have to remember the whole science of Byakugan and conduct a full examination of the genetic compatibility of their eyes. Let's see. I don't want to give hope ahead of time, so I answer rather evasively. However, I still won't give up the desire to visit Sasuke and, if possible, the other two, and then maybe I'll come up with something. Do you have ideas? Hope instantly lit up in Na-chan's eyes, and she herself somehow straightened up, becoming taller. I didn't deny it, but until I regained my previous control over my chakra, having recovered before that, I won't give my hopes up. Okay, at least this way, Nariko responded, looking firmly into my eyes. If you need help, speak up. Certainly, I smiled contentedly. Now Na-chan looks like her former self. Well, since you've chatted, then eat. And I-sen intervened in our conversation. Well, after that I will help you get to the Uchiha quarter. We will help you get there, Noriani interrupts him. Okay, we'll help you get to the Uchiha quarter, and I-sen corrected himself, flashing his eyes displeasedly towards Nariko. It's not for nothing that Tu-san got you permission to visit. Great. I smiled cheerfully and finally started eating. True, I had to force myself not to rush, and this was wildly difficult. I wanted to meet Sasuke too much. However, not only with him, it is worth talking with Shursui and Itachi, and only after enlisting their support, begin to work out a plan to save their vision. Chapter 49. Visit. Quickly sweeping away everything offered, I brazenly demanded that I be taken to the Uchihas as quickly as possible. To my surprise, no one ignored this requirement, and they didn't even try to make excuses by saying that they needed to check the exact time and coordinate everything with Fugaku-san. They simply nodded and, putting me on an I-san's back, set off to leave the house, and then the quarter in general. The first impulse was to be indignant and demand that they put me on my feet so that I could walk at least part of the way on my own, but then I understood why Sasuke recalled with such nostalgia how Itachi carried him on his back from training. Unforgettable feelings. However, No less joyful was the fact that they immediately achieved a high speed of movement, and there were no delays. And not only in the village itself, but also in the quarter. And this, I'll tell you, is an indicator. After all, absolutely all Uzumaki are quite sociable. On the one hand, this is good. It's enough for me to simply find out the latest events in the clan, and in the entire village as a whole, but when you're in a hurry, this becomes a minus. In general, how good it was that they dragged me on their back. Otherwise, our journey to the gate to the Uchiha quarter would have taken not 10 minutes, but 10 hours, no less. By the way, well-groomed and with impressive guards on the sides, they produced a majestic spectacle, and this despite the fact that we were not near the central ones. Greetings, Nariko-sama, Aoi-sama, Naruto-sama. As soon as we approached the gate, we were greeted by one of the Uchiha guys I vaguely knew, although, considering the fact that all Uchihas are similar, it would be strange to be surprised at this. The same Sasuke, if he were a little darker and had the same stripes on his face as Itachi, would be an exact copy of his brother. Although no, he would need even more manageable hair, otherwise his own hair always stands on end, just like Madara's. Greetings? Aoi and I slightly bowed his head, his intonation clearly hinting that it would not hurt the boy to introduce himself. Please follow me. Fugakudano has ordered me to escort you to the estate. The Uchiha ignored the question that was not asked directly to him, but noticing the displeasure of both my relatives, he calmly added, My name is Takaru and I am your escort. Takaru-kun, will you take us to Fugaku-san? I didn't like the feeling of my Nai-san's hardened muscles under my hands, so I hurried to intervene in the conversation. Naruto, what are you talking about? Noriani exclaimed in surprise, but did not have time to finish. She was interrupted with a clear conscience. Yes, you are right, Haim. Takara bowed to me respectfully, ignoring my Nanchan's dissatisfaction with this. The head of the clan wants to talk to you. Besides, permission to visit was issued only to me, right? I chuckle, mentally wondering what Sasuke wants to discuss with me. So far it hasn't worked out very well. Yes, Naruto-sama. Takaru calmly and majestically nods, which makes Nichan literally suffocate with indignation, but I don't need scandals now, and that's what he will soon be, if I don't intervene, of course. Then let's not keep Fugaku-san waiting, I agree. Naruto. Nariko was indignant. Nichan, every clan has its own secrets. I throw a dissatisfied look at her. I have already been promised, and I am already part of this clan, you are not. You're right, just a minute ago, Nori, brimming with discontent, disagrees and retreats. Is it because of the audience, or did she really admit that I was right? However, we'll wait, we'll see. Follow me. Realizing that there would be no more questions, Takara said and leisurely walked deeper into the quarter. The desire to get off and go on my own began to grow, but there was no confidence that I would get there. And who should I be ashamed of? We are not walking along the common street, which is open to visitors, but along one of the most direct paths, where if we met anyone, we were not very curious, plus we were also in a hurry. We're glad to see you, Naruto. As soon as we got to the estate I knew, Mikoto-san jumped out and instantly ran up to us. And why? Hello Mikoto-san, I smile and quietly hit the chuckled Nai-san on the back, giving a sign to be lowered to my feet. It's just that I haven't fully recovered yet, and such trips will take too much time. As soon as I find myself on the ground, I begin to stretch my limbs with outright pleasure. It's not that they're too numb for me. We just didn't have time in such a short time, but some discomfort was still felt, as well as slight weakness. True, this could easily be ignored. Does that mean we are not welcome? Aoi and I clarifies somewhat tiredly, but with good-natured mockery. However, he does not let me out of his sight, ready to help at any moment. This is in vain. If I don't make any sudden movements, then I'm probably fine. Of course I'm glad. Sasuke's mother responds indignantly and adds with a disarming smile. However, Naruto is stronger, my boy has already waited for her. Then don't keep him waiting, impatience, that's what was hidden under my words. I was too used to Sasuke always being there, and I didn't tolerate the forced separation well, even if I tried my best to drive away thoughts of him. Commendable. Fugaku-san's voice came as a complete surprise to me, as did his appearance behind us. Hello, Fugaku-san, I smiled cheerfully, ignoring the feeling of someone else's dissatisfaction in my subconscious. Greetings, the man nods in response. However, before I take you to them, you must answer one question. Ask. I can hardly suppress my surprise that Fugaku-san said, I'll take you not to him, but to them. He's blind, are you ready for this? The look is calm, but this is if you don't look into the eyes and don't understand the essence of the issue. Blind Uchiha, this is a sentence, and he has 2 such sons on his hands at once. I know that Madara once conducted research on his Sharingan. I shrugged my shoulders, trying to throw off the feeling of heaviness that fell on me as soon as I looked into Fugaku-san's eyes. Perhaps there is an answer there, and I'm ready for the consequences. Here's how. Only a long acquaintance with Sasuke allowed me to notice a flicker of hope in his father's eyes, as well as a quick glance to the side, and then Fugaku-san continued, Your answer is good, I will take you to him. Thank you. I bow slightly and take the first step towards Sasuke's father. However, somewhere in the depths of my soul there glimmers the hope that we don't have far to go, and there won't be any special stairs there. Well, while they're walking, why don't we have some tea? Mikoto-san's faintly cheerful voice sounds behind me. But, Anai-san and Nichan are trying to argue with one voice. Nothing will happen to her. Fugaku will keep an eye on our daughter-in-law, Mikoto-san responded softly, but with metallic notes in her voice, and I finally reached Fugaku-san and grabbed the elbow he offered me. Okay, since you say so. I didn't hear the end of the phrase, because Sasuke's father didn't drag me through the streets and simply moved me with Shunshin to the foot of the Nakano temple. True, I didn't have time to ask the question, actually, why we were here. A gray-haired, but still strong man materialized nearby, who, judging by the sign on his back, was also an Uchiha. That's her? The only thing he asked? Yes, Fugaku-san agreed. How old are you, child? Calm voice. 14, I didn't see the point in hiding something like that. You're older, just like Sasuke, he calmly told me in response, and I hardly suppressed surprise and panic. However, it doesn't matter, let's go. I look back at Fugaku-san in surprise and see only a subtle nod. I shrug and don't ask any more questions, following the gray-haired man who walked not towards the temple, but away from it, straight into the depths of the well-kept garden. True, we did not walk for long, about 5 minutes, when we reached the rock garden. The man, who never told me his name, still silently stood in the middle of the composition of stones, and then bit the skin on his thumb and made 5 seals, which vaguely reminded me of the action of the summoning technique, but it was not her. The space around me began to ripple, and soon I saw a descent into the ground open in front of the gray-haired man. Go, there. The person who accompanied me here quietly admonished me. Eh? I was confused. In half an hour I will open the passage, the man calmly told me. I had to silently nod and obey. As soon as I went down the steps a little, the passage behind me disappeared, but torches began to light up on both sides of the passage, showing that I still had 10 more steps to go and about 20 meters along the corridor to the only door ahead. I sigh heavily and, praying to Rikudo, carefully walk along the wall so that, Kami-sama forbid, I don't fall, much less activate all those seals that I feel in the walls. I reach the door and carefully turn the handle, close my eyes and sharply swing the door open. Who is there? The voice is familiar. I opened my eyes and realized with surprise that not only am I in a comfortable room, where the light comes from normal lamps, and not creepy torches, Itachi says so. And in the ward itself there are all three who have lost their sight, as the bandages over their eyes clearly hint at. It's strange, didn't the Uchiha have another place for them, or at least separate rooms? Or did they decide to save not only on caregivers, but also on the territory they occupy? Keep it simple, most likely they don't want to wash their dirty laundry in public. Someone else's dissatisfied growl sounds in my head, which means there should be fewer people privy to this secret. Naruto, is that you? I hear Sasuke's surprised voice. You weren't in a hurry. Naruto? But this is Shisui speaking. No, it doesn't look like it. The baby has a different feeling. And yet it's me, Shisui-san, I chuckle, once again amazed at how the Uchiha's perception changes as soon as they strain their eyes. However, Hyugas are also guilty of this. Take, for example, how Neji confused Kiba with Akamaru during the war. Why did you come? Itachi asked in a calm tone. I want to help. I tried to speak calmly and peacefully, knowing full well that Itachi is not worried about himself, although he is also worried about himself. Can you? Shisui asks me tiredly, and with slight mockery. When is the transplant? Sasuke asks in a casual tone. Not earlier than in a couple of weeks, I respond calmly, clicking my tongue displeasedly, simultaneously coming closer and sitting down on my fiancé's bed. I see him stretching his hand towards me and, unable to resist, I extend mine, intertwining my fingers with his. Feelings of calm and tranquility, but also guilt, overwhelm me, so I continue to speak with apologetic intonations. I can't use chakra for about a week, and some compatibility research needs to be done. Hey! Itachi was indignant at the fact that we did not react to their words. What a pity that Sasuke is not in a solitary ward. Not only can we not have a heart-to-heart talk and discuss a plan of action, but in general we have to choose our words extremely carefully. For a long time, Sasuke responds laconically and dissatisfiedly, while completely ignoring the presence of the others. And then, taking advantage of the fact that I was distracted, he suddenly jerks me by the arm. As a result, I lose my balance and fall straight into his arms. I can't help you. I settle more comfortably on his chest and spread my arms, forgetting that neither he nor the others can see me. I respond. I already suggested where to look for the solution. Tomorrow I'll talk to Bie-chan so she can give me access to Tobirama's research. Why else do you need this? Shisui was amazed, having realized much earlier than Itachi that we shouldn't expect answers from us. However, he might as well have thought that he could extract details from Sasuke after I left. He conducted research on the Sharingan and Mangekyo Sharingan, I phlegmatically explained to everyone. I even know where to look for the information I need. True, even this will require quite a lot of time to prepare for the operation. After all, the eye is a rather fragile organ. I have a feeling that you know what to do, and now you're just looking for a way to hide your knowledge in front of others, Itachi says with a grin, and after my short silence he exhales in confusion. Really? Don't want to hear lies, don't ask questions. I respond quietly, trying to push away from me one impudent creature that has laid its head on my shoulder and is now tickling my neck with its hair. Besides, how do I know the secret information of two clans, either of which I am officially a member of yet? I understand, Brother Sasuke responded quite seriously. Nei-sen, leave Naruto alone, my fiancé mutters displeasedly. Yes, Itachi, don't stop them from taking advantage of the fact that we can't see anything. Judging by his voice, Shisui perked up, which is good. True, no one will stop us from listening, so be careful there. Shisui-san. I howled. Thank you for the advice and unwillingness to get in the way, Sasuke said calmly and shut me up in the most effective way. blatantly taking advantage of the fact that I have not yet completely recovered from past shocks and feel weak. However, I didn't resist and be indignant for very long, because I was very bored myself. Chapter 50. First Steps to Solving Problems. After spending exactly half an hour in the guy's room, half of which they didn't let me talk, I went out. No, I would love to stay there longer, but I was given a certain period of time and I had no desire to test someone else's patience. However, I was escorted to the exit by Sasuke, who, to my surprise, knew his way around this small dungeon quite well. True, he did not go to the surface, limiting himself to taking me to the stairs and, after kissing me goodbye, he let me go, returning with a confident step, and I had to overcome the steps. Perhaps there weren't so many of them, but it was enough for me. I was already falling out to the surface, tripping over the last step. Be careful. I closed my eyes against my will, expecting to hit the ground, but the same gray-haired man who brought me here picks me up in his arms. Thank you. I thank you for your help and try to move away. My savior just shakes his head tiredly at this, but does not create any obstacles. Let's go, the gray-haired man commands in a calm voice. Eh? I turn back in confusion, remembering the passage, and fall silent. He wasn't there. What a high-quality genjutsu, and apparently also welded with fuinjutsu. Let's go. I notice a subtle grin that slid across the lips of my escort, and pursing my lips, I tried to catch up with him. However, he is in no hurry, walks slowly, and then begins to tell the story of the creation of the garden around the temple. Chat that doesn't make any sense, but allows me to maintain the appearance that it's not me walking slowly, constantly stopping to rest, but listening attentively to the narrator and looking at the leaves on the trees. Did you hear what you wanted? Confused by the leisurely speech of the gray-haired Uchiha, I did not immediately understand what he was asking me. Yes, I mentally slapped myself for relaxing. Fine, nods my escort, who never gave his name. We have arrived. Here is your daughter-in-law, Fugaku-kun. Thank you, Kagami-sama. Sasuke's father materializes in front of us, as if out of thin air, and I shudder. Only now does it dawn on me that the path we walked was longer than the one I walked when going towards him. I wonder when I fell into genjutsu? The moment he caught you. Kurama's dissatisfied voice sounded. You wouldn't have been able to escape without our help in stopping the chakra, so I didn't tell you anything. After all, there was no threat to your life, he just transferred you from the exit from the dungeon to here. You forgot to add, Red, that he didn't use the Sharingan. Shikaka added his 2 cents. You probably didn't notice, but he's blind, Kurama remarked venomously, and judging by the sound, they at least butted heads. Which makes me very happy. I heard about this Uchiha. Me too, they say that he is the father of the ghosts. Saiken calmly told me, who was rather phlegmatic about the fuss of these two in my subconscious. Blind? I was surprised and heard a quiet growl in the background fade away. Tusen Shursui-san? His chakra has a similar smell. Kurama snorted displeasedly. It's similar, you say? I drawled with interest. Hey, don't you dare! My red-haired friend soared, but I had already decided everything for myself. Besides, there were more chances to save someone. 3 are already too many for this damned clan. I'm sorry, Kagami-san, I carefully called to the gray-haired man who had already turned away. Did you want something? Only now, when it was pointed out to me, did I begin to understand that this man's gaze was empty, but to my surprise, the color of the pupil did not become any less saturated. Tell me, are you blind because of the Sharingan? I asked the question in a calm tone. Did you notice yet? The man chuckled instead of answering. Well, what about it? I don't like other people's silence, so I asked the question again. Yes, Kagami-san nodded. And yes, I agreed to take part in the adventure that you are about to undertake. Thank you, I bow, but I understand that there is no one nearby. Let's go. Fugaku-sen instantly appeared nearby and moves me to his mansion, and then helps me climb onto the porch and enter the house itself. Well, here comes Naruto and Fugaku, and you were worried. Mikoto-san looks out from the door into the kitchen, and after a couple of seconds, Anai-san and Nichan look out. As you can see, everything is fine with her, and she was returned safe and sound. And it's true, Noriani agrees with her. Let's go have some tea. Kachan smiled at Sasuke and disappeared behind the doors, but I had no choice but to wash my hands, and then sit down at the table. All the same, no one was going to leave me so easily. However, after half an hour we began to resolutely take our leave. Naruto, do you need anything else besides what you listed earlier? The question caught me at the moment when I was about to climb back onto my Anai-san's back and go home. You probably have Irayanin who specialize in dojutsu. I turned towards the man. Let them take all the indicators that will probably be found in Madara's drafts from the eyes of the blind and give them to me. Fine, Fugaku-san instantly agreed with me. Tomorrow you will have this data, but you will have to wait a little with the right people. Time is running out. I still won't be able to help with the operation earlier than in 2 weeks. I object. Although I don't have the strength, I want to help Sasuke and the others. However, first you need to get your chakra reserve and control in order, and even with the help of clones this cannot be done instantly, which frustrates me quite a lot. During this time I will gather the necessary people. Now they are on missions. Sasuke's father nods. Goodbye. I bow and climb onto the back of Anai-san, who is already tired of waiting for my reaction, who, after briefly nodding to the Uchiha couple, takes a leisurely step towards the exit. Aoi walks quite quickly, and besides there is an accompanying person walking next to us, so we don't talk. However, even after we leave the Uchiha quarter, there is no opportunity to talk. He took off too abruptly. True, I was not eager to chat. I had too much to think about. Although the most important thing was, perhaps, the opportunity to extract from Byakugan the right to read Tobirama's notes. I'm sure you could learn a lot about dojutsu there, as well as about irajutsu in general. He was generally an enthusiastic guy, but most importantly, he did not have Hashirama's habit of coming up with mind-blowing names for his jutsu. We're home! Nei-sen notified everyone, and I only now realized that he brought me not to Aji-san, but to home. Welcome back! Ero-senin came out to meet us. You look kind of pale, Naruto. What it is, I mutter, although in fact I'm very glad to see the old man alive and well. Where are Kachan and Bachan? That is, where is your two-san? You are not interested. Jiraiya remarked sarcastically. Nope, I shake my head and get down from my brother's back. In his case, there aren't many options. He's either in the residence in his office, or, I grin and continue. Again at the residence, but at a meeting. Your truth! The Sannin laughed, and coming up, easily picked me up in his arms, dragging me into the kitchen. I was told to feed you with what is sealed in the scrolls. I was seated at the table and given 3 food scrolls. Yes. With a proud and satisfied look. Without even thinking about printing them. If I hadn't had tea less than half an hour ago with Mikoto-san, I would have beaten him for such a mockery, but I just pushed them away from me with stony calm. To the mocking chuckles of Anai-san and Nichan, please note. I just left Mikoto-san, so I don't want to. I ignored Jiraiya's indignation and calmly clarify. So where are Kachan and Byakugan, Ero-senin? She can't use chakra, Ji-sen, the Sannin, who had already opened her mouth for an angry sermon, interrupted Noriani and, going into the kitchen, opened the first of the food scrolls, placing in front of me some kind of greenish mess, in which lumps of an incomprehensible color were floating. Eat, it's good for recovery. My attempts to avoid eating questionable food were interrupted by Nichan. With an innocent look, taking out a couple of paralyzing seals and unsealing something suspiciously reminiscent of a funnel for feeding unconscious patients. "Oh, traitor! I don't have the strength to fight it off, just like I don't have the strength to resist any seal." Kushina went to buy groceries blossomed from the actions of Norinat Jiraiya, but on the contrary, I withered and, carefully picking up a little on a spoon, decided to try what was offered to me. To my surprise, the taste of apples and oranges lingered on my tongue. Tsunade is in the hospital, but she promised to come for dinner. I decided to come earlier anyway. There are no heavy ones left, and the clone can cope with the routine. Bachan and Kachan burst into the kitchen. "How are you feeling, my sunshine?" I instantly find myself in the strong embrace of my Kachan and with pleasure inhaled the familiar smell, feeling the warmth that I was previously deprived of. "It's okay, Kachan, just a little tired." I stroke her arms, clasping me soothingly. "What did you want from me, Naruto?" After waiting for me to be released, Senju asked. "Bachan, what do you think about what happened with the Uchihas?" With much greater pleasure, I scoop up a spoonful of vitamin, let it be porridge, and put it in my mouth. "Nothing, they didn't even let me get close to them." Tsunade shrugged and began to help Kachan lay out the products printed from scrolls on the shelves. "Well, that's to be expected." I look with interest at Senju, who is clearly trying to hide her irritation. "However, I don't believe you didn't look for a solution." I search, but without receiving the patient's data, I still can't do anything. The closet door slams displeasedly, along which strings of seals immediately run, protecting the furniture from an overly expressive reaction. Wasn't this Nidame's research by any chance? I cast my fishing rod, hoping that I won't be killed by that frying pan that Bachan is standing very dangerously close to. Not only that, both of my G-sans investigated this problem, just Hashirama-sama before his friend left Konoha, and Tobarama-sama when he already thought. Tsunade carefully hands Noriani a bag of grapes and freezes, turning sharply to me and affectionately clarifying. "Wait, Naruto, how do you know that my G-san conducted research on the Sharingan?" Kyubi said. I lied without blinking an eye, handing the silent and ice and the dirty dishes, which he, even though his eyes flashed displeasedly in my direction, took and went to wash. "That's right, by the way, otherwise it will be hot here now, and he seems to have an excuse to stay and listen." "Come on." Senju raised an eyebrow mockingly. Kyubi, who hates the Uchihas, suddenly decided to help them. "Now, at least someone understands me." Kurama inserted his 5 ri. "And by the way, how does he even know about G-san's research?" Not hearing Red's words, meanwhile Bachan continues. "But no, it seems I jumped to conclusions," Kurama concluded, upset as Shikaka laughed and fell silent. "Not for them, but for me," I calmly parried the taunt and continued. "I need these records." Actually, he was already sealed in Mito-sama and was able to learn a lot, and now he has shared it with me. Consultations. G-san and Ba-san never got along. Tobarama-san simply wouldn't let her in on his plans. Carry out the operation. Yes, Tsunade shook her head, looking past me with some hidden sadness. They will bring data about the condition of their eyes. They didn't get compatibility, but they agreed on one thing. To my home. In relation to Madara, I smile slyly and bow my head to my shoulder. "Yes." "Can you help?" Senju nods and looks into my eyes. "Tell me straight, what was this conversation about?"